in, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 186 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. We are going to be joined by Jon Garrett, ARCA Series driver, coming up in just a few moments as we'll catch up with him, everything going on in the ARCA Menards series and get his insights and everything that's going on with him in just a little while from right now. Plus, we'll take a look at the latest headlines in the sport with our news and notes. We'll get to our mailbag segment. But before we do all that, Dominic Aragon joins me right now as we look back at the weekend that was in Mexico City with a dominating win for SVG. Shane Van Gisbergen gets his second win of his career, his first of 2025, and he is locked into the NASCAR playoffs. Also, big weekend for Daniel Suarez as well, winning in his home country in the Xfinity Series. Dom, SVG, I would put it this way. When I look back at that race, Dom, that even though SVG dominated in the fashion that he did, the race I thought was still exciting. I thought it was still a good race, even with SVG winning by a 14-second margin. If you take SVG out of the field, I think we're talking about a very close race that a number of drivers could have won. There just happens to be a generational road course talent that is so good when we go to these new tracks in SVG leading the way there.
And I think back to your words, we talk a lot on the show. I think we eat our words a lot, but there's sometimes where we're just on target. And I got to give you credit here, Tyler. You had called it long before Shane Van Gisbergen was going to be going to the Cup Series. He is running the Xfinity Series schedule, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, to build a year of momentum, a year of confidence to ultimately go Cup racing long before this was announced from Trackhouse. This was the play the entire time. And given the scenarios of how you get into the playoffs, you don't have to worry about a top 30 in points really anymore. You win, you attempt every race in the regular season, and you're in, barring 17 winners. Tyler, bullseye from your prediction there, and I would say mission accomplished with Trackhouse Racing.
Yeah. And SVG, let's talk about him for a moment. Dom, he's slowly improving at the ovals, but when I look at these road courses, he might be as good as we got right now. I mean, he's got such a good feel for these cars. With what he does with both feet inside the cockpit, he doesn't even want the cameras showing, giving away his secrets anymore to what he's doing. I mean, it just all comes so natural for him at these road courses. He does things, it's similar to what you see with Kyle Larson with mile and a half tracks, or Denny Hamlin's with short tracks. I mean, this is just his bread and butter.
Bread and butter, and like I said, mission accomplished. There were 6 chances here in the regular season to knock off a win and score a victory and punch a playoff ticket. He's done it, and maybe the argument on the other side of that too is, well, he's knocked somebody out that might be more deserving. No. This is the system we have. These are the rules that everybody has signed up to play by, and he's won a race. If Ryan Preece, if Kyle Busch wants to be a part of the playoffs, they need to win a race.
Yeah, I have no problem with him being in the playoff. I know Richard Petty was speaking out against it and saying that road course racing isn't really NASCAR racing anyway, and was kind of opposed to it. But this is the system everybody signed up for. SVG's earned the right to be there. And, if you don't like it, then stop him from winning. I mean, to me, you win a race like that, you win by 14 seconds. That's just domination. That deserves some praise and some attention. And I have no problem with him being in the playoff whatsoever. With going forward from here, SVG's in the playoff now. He's right there in the catbird seat to win Rookie of the Year. Even if he doesn't reach victory lane again, Dom, just the fact that he won and got into the playoff, I think no matter what happens the rest of the way out, it's been a successful rookie campaign for SVG.
Much like last year, he won 3 times before they got to the playoffs on those road courses. It wouldn't shock me if he were to do that, start the playoffs at 16 playoff points and be able to advance through at least one round of the playoffs because of those points being able to carry you. We have the Roval in the playoffs. You have super speedway racing. I'm thinking Justin Marks is probably really liking his situation right now. You have 2 of your guys locked into the playoffs while you have Daniel Suarez still trying to fight his way in, but he's also a good road course racer himself. So Really, really good spot for Trackhouse. They've won two out of the last four races now. I'm thinking that team's really feeling good about their chances coming into the summer of being able to make some more noise. This is the Trackhouse we're used to seeing, Tyler.
Yeah, it is. They're making some noise and they're doing a really good job. Don, before we bring in John, just any final thoughts on the weekend? Great atmosphere in Mexico City, battled through the rain and all, but I thought it was still a successful weekend. We knew that the circumstances were not ideal of the travel, and you had a couple guys getting sick and all this, but uh, from Suarez winning in his home country to SVG getting it done and just everything that played out. I thought this Mexico City weekend was a big success. There'll probably have to be some changes going forward in the future. Ben Kennedy's talked about that maybe they add an off date or something after the Mexico City race to help the logistics. But I have every reason to think that we should be going back to Mexico City in the future. What do you think?
And NASCAR didn't commit to that after the week, and we've seen that before where there's been an inaugural race and hey, we're coming back next year. We didn't quite get that, but we also didn't get hey, we're not coming back either. So, like you said, there's probably some little things they're trying to figure out with the 26 schedule. That probably would make a lot of sense to have some sort of off weekend before or after, have the next race closer to home base after Mexico City instead of going to Pocono. The logistics, I'm sure, were a little crazy to get under control, but the last few weeks have shown that hey, this is what everybody signed up for. These hauler drivers have done that with the West Coast swing as well. So chalk it up as a success.
I think so. Dom, tell us about our guest, Jon Garrett, this week.
Jon joins us this week here on Let's Go Racing. Jon himself is a racer. He's been racing since the 90s, but he took on the ARCA schedule full time last year, finished fifth in points. He, like you and David, are from the great state of Texas, or at least live in Texas, I should say. So,
I'm
Jon,
not from Texas.
not from Texas for Tyler, but he does live in Dallas Fort Worth currently. We'll have to talk more about that later. Tyler had a very exciting weekend, by the way. But Jon, thank you so much for joining us this week here on Let's Go Racing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we know you're heavily involved in sim racing. You ran the full ARCA Menards schedule last year. You've been breathing racing your entire life, it seems. But take us back to the beginning, where it all started for you. What is that origin story, and what sparked your interest in racing from the very beginning?
Yeah, I just turned 55 last month, so it's a long ways back to go to the beginning. And I actually ran the full ARCA season in 2023, not last year. Actually set out last year and this year also looking for funding, which if David was here, he could tell you those stories, how hard it is to fund your passion, I guess you would call it. I don't know, just, when I was a kid, I just always liked racing, watching NASCAR on TV, which, it wasn't on weekly like it is now, but I always liked watching, and Cale Yarborough was my favorite driver. Didn't there where I live, I grew up in Tyler in East Texas. There really weren't anything for young kids to, race go-karts or anything I knew of anyway. So I didn't start racing until I was 22 or 24, actually, 1994. At My brother helped some local dirt track guys, and I went out there with him and like, hey, I want to do this, so I think I can do this. So bought a 78 Grand Prix off the side of the road, turned it into a street stock, and ran dirt tracks for 5 or 6 years around East Texas, and slowly became pretty good at it. Won lots of races. Won races at the Devil's Bowl Speedway, which is now closed, which is kind of sad, in Mesquite. And that was a nice fast track, half-mile sticky black dirt, so that was fun to race on. After that, I got into asphalt truck racing and spec trucks around Texas, and actually we ran all over the United States. It was called the American Race Truck Series, and it was made up of 4 or 5 regions across the United States, and did that for a few years. And actually, that's where I sort of met David Starr. This will date both of us, but in 1999, which was my rookie season in that series, I won Rookie of the Year, and he came and spoke at our awards banquet in San Antonio. I'm not sure who he was running with at that time, maybe the Spears truck or something like that in the truck series, but that's where I kind of met him, and I'd always been following him, him being from Texas, we'd always pull for him. So kind of met him there. Also in my business, I do embroidery and screen printing, and we did that for the driving school when his uncle owned it. Not so much with David since he's taken it over, but yeah. So I'm super familiar with what he's got going on there. After I ran trucks until like 2004, but kids became of age, doing all their activities and stuff. Funding kind of went away, so I pretty much quit racing after '05. I did a couple here and there, but I was pretty much done. Um, and this is a long story, but I'll kind of condense it. I believe it was 2018, 2019. I was just randomly looking at a truck entry list and I saw the name Bailey Curry from Texas. I knew his dad, Mark. I didn't race against him, but we raced at the same track in Austin or Kyle, Texas. It's called Thunder Hill Raceway. Um, so I just hit him up on Facebook and said, "Hey, how could I get my name on this race car, a race truck?" So he put me in touch. So I kind of got involved, and then we started going to the races. Be down in the pits was, which turned out to be a major. Mistake. And now I've got the bug again, so I've got to go racing. Um, then I started doing T-shirts for a guy that helped him for a long time. His name's Michael Harper. Helped him when he was running legends and late models and stuff. I do. He runs a monster truck show, so I do all his T-shirts. I met him out on an interstate to give him some for a show. And he's like, "Hey man, you ought to go do the ARCA test at Daytona." This was the fall of 2021. I'm like, "You're crazy. They're not going to let me do that." He's like, "Yeah, you got a good enough resume. Give Andy Hillenberg a call." So that's what I did. Did the test in January 2022. Everything went smooth. So now I've got the bug. I ran the Talladega race with Fast Track Racing in April, I believe. Finished 23rd or so. Had battery issues, so a couple laps down, which was actually probably good because the group of cars I was running with before I had issues got into a pretty bad wreck. So I probably would have been in the middle of that mess. They ended up cutting the guy out of the car, which was pretty wild. Um, so then before that race, a guy I used to race trucks with, saw that I was running. He's like, "Hey, you need a little help." He gave me a little money. His name's Lane Moore from Oklahoma. So then he come to the race. So he's got the bug at this point too. He doesn't want to race, but he wants to kind of be on the ownership side. So we end up buying a car, and then we went and ran Pocono later that year. Had a pretty solid race, and then we ran Kansas at the end of 2022. Ended up finishing 10th, so it's pretty good debut. Then we really got the bug. We bought two cars from Brett Holmes and decided we'd go full-time racing with three cars in 2023. So we did that with Fast Track Racing. They supported the cars, took them to the track. Andy was actually my spotter, which he was great, and we ran the full season. Had some ups and downs, but for the most part, had a fun deal. Finished fifth in points. Checked off a bucket list item that I'd really pretty much given up on. At my age, I didn't think I'd ever get to do that. So, yeah, it turned out to be a great deal.
You love hearing those racing stories, Tyler, because we know with football, with basketball, with baseball, if you want to go pro, that window is very, very limited. It's a very specific path you have to follow. And I think John's story here just shows time and time again the racing ladder has no one correct path in how to get to where you're wanting to go. That it could be a multitude of things. There's truly unique pathways to be able to find yourself behind the wheel.
No doubt. And John, I got to ask you, uh, when you got into this and compared to where you're at now, did did you envision things going this way? Did you think that you'd be here racing at this stage here in the ARCA series?
Oh, definitely not. When I quit racing in the early 2000s, I just figured that was it. I don't have a lot of money at my, hands to use for that kind of thing. Don't know a lot of people with it, but Lane Moore and some other people, the right people came around at the right time, and we put things together and made it happen, and ran up some credit cards in the meantime. But when you're halfway into your dream, and you just find ways to figure it out and get it done. Even more, you know, me being happy I got to do it. More than that, I have my wife, Keisha, and two kids, Kanisha and Josh. They went to probably 90% of the races, so they got to be down in the pits and experience all that. And seeing them experience was, almost as fun as me being in the car and doing it. So that was a good experience. And then, you know, you think, I'm running with a tier two, tier three team. We're finishing mid pack. We'll get in the top 10 if we can, but we're just not spending the money that the other teams are spending. Those top teams are spending 70, 80 grand a race where we might be spending 15. So to be able to compete sometimes with them was great. But another good part of it was all the guys that I raced with on short tracks over the years would send me messages and say how proud they were to that I got to do that. It was like I was doing it for them because the chance of people getting to do that's very slim. So that felt good. I felt like I was carrying the torch for all those guys.
And I was thinking back on it too, that the first year, or I guess the year that you ran full time in 23, Tyler, we were there for that ARCA race when Frankie Muniz made his debut, and I know you were in that too. And that race had so much chaos and drama. And I was trying to think back to it. You were in contention on that last lap, if I remember correctly, or you had a good chance at a really good finish there at the late running of the race.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I don't mean it like that, but
No,
I was remember back to the race thinking, yeah,
no, it was
yeah.
it was great. The race played out just like Andy told me before the race. He said, "Hey, we're just on these restarts, so I'm going to say three, two, one, go, and I want you to count the three before you go because we're just going to kind of space out and ride. In those races, there's always at least one break, so you try to make it to the break, which we did." And then after that break, we just started working our way up and, avoided some wrecks and spins. And before you know it, I think it was three to go on that restart and we restarted ninth. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And I'm out there with, Jesse Love and Frankie Muniz and all kinds of other names. We take that restart and instantly we're three wide. I feel like I'm on iRacing. That whole race felt like iRacing, three wide, three wide, three wide, three wide from the very beginning. It's pretty crazy because watching those ARCA, Daytona, or Talladega races in the past, they just get in line on the bottom and circle around. But I felt like we were three wide all day. But anyway, I'm in the middle, three wide, and we come out of turn four, coming to the checker. I'm like, oh, okay, we made it through. I'm okay. Next thing you know, I get turned in the left rear. Natalie Decker got into me, which, things are crazy. I'm not going to totally blame her, but she was off the yellow line a little bit, 2 or 3 car lengths. So, yeah, I start spinning through the grass, and Andy's driving it for me the whole time on the radio. He's like, hold the brake, hold the brake. Let it roll. When I actually roll across to start finishing the grass backwards and finish the race. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I was pretty upset. Went looking for her after the race, but couldn't find her, which is probably a good thing for all of us. But yeah, if you search Google for Jon Garrett ARCA 2023 Daytona, somebody was in the stands and posted a video of that spin. It's pretty crazy.
That is. That is. We're joined by Jon Garrett here on Let's Go Racing this week. John, tell me about what's ahead for you. You got any things you're working on, or when we're going to see you back in the race car or anything? What's potentially in the works here?
Yeah, nothing concrete. I'm hoping maybe I can run Kansas in the fall, the Kansas 2 race, they call it. I really like that track. And, it's just about raising the dollars. If David was here, he could tell you the same stories. It's not about skill or even who you know. You got to bring some money to the table to fund these things. And even at this level, it's just crazy expensive. But Yeah, I hope to run a couple races, and I would certainly like to run Daytona again. That was just a great experience. You get to go on the stage, and you're pretty much there 3 or 4 days, and big crowd, so it's a lot of fun.
Very much so. And you said so. I'm taking maybe 12 steps back here. We're talking about David and getting the chance to interact with him or meet him in the 90s when he spoke at the awards banquet. So I have to ask. So knowing of David for a very long time, what are some of your favorite David Starr stories, memories? You got to have a funny story on David, right?
Um, Not really, because I don't really know him that way over the years, except knowing the name and keeping up with him. I just think it's kind of crazy full circle that he spoke at my rookie awards banquet in 1999, and actually that race that you said you were at Daytona, he was there, and I introduced myself again to him, and we spoke, and he thought it was just a cool deal that I was running the car. So just that, and how things come full circle. Now he's running the school there at TMS. That's a cool deal. It's still great to see him to be able to run a couple of races per year, so that's cool.
Yeah, he's definitely an inspiration to us too. Running Darlington earlier this year, and I know he's got some more races that he was trying to get nailed down on his schedule this year. And he has said he's even said on the show a time or three that before it's all said and done, not once but twice, he wants to attempt the Daytona 500. And man, I think that would be one heck of a party in Texas if David Starr gets the opportunity to race the Daytona 500 someday.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when you look back on that racing season in 2023 and getting to do the grind of it and be full time and live the racing dream, what are some of your fondest memories and maybe some of the biggest lessons from that season as a driver?
Yeah, and it's definitely a grind. It was 20 races, which we had some good breaks in between races in the beginning. We went Daytona, and then we went to Phoenix. Um, and then we went to I believe Talladega next with some big breaks in between. Um, just getting to go to all these tracks that I had run on iRacing was cool. I used iRacing to help me, even though it's not the same. It got me familiar with it. Um, I met a great family in the Charlotte area. We I print shirts for the Friends of Jocelyn Foundation. I hope I got that name right. I just know it as FOJ. It's on
Creed's car, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's on his car and a couple other cars in the truck series or trucks in the truck series. But we had like a host family there, and I met them, and they got to come to the race and be a part of the weekend with us, and that was cool. And ever since then, they've always checked in with me, and we become friends over that deal. Again, getting to race at places like Charlotte, Kansas, Daytona, Talladega, uh, Watkins Glen. I didn't get to really run that race. I started and parked, but still, just being there was crazy. Um, Going up the S's to the bus stop, there's campers on both sides, and it's just you kind of get that indie feel where there's people on both sides. Even for our race on Friday, a lot of people there. That was a cool deal. I did get to race Mid Ohio, which was cool, and you know, learning the track on iRacing was a big help. Had a pretty good race there. I think I finished 11th. My best race was Salem. Finished seventh there, and that's a crazy track in those cars. Um, I didn't get to really race Bristol, but even I was starting parking there, and I told my family because they wouldn't go to starting parks. But I said, "Hey, I'm starting in parking, but y'all have to come because it's Bristol." And when we got there, they were like, "Yeah, this place is crazy." So that was a fun deal. I'd say my only regret was on iRacing. A big thing they say is ARCA braking when you come into the wreck late, when you maybe could have missed it. I had a small case of that on my last race at Toledo. I really wouldn't call it ARCA braking. TV made me look terrible, but what they didn't know is that whole race before, or a whole lap before that happened, I was racing hard 3 wide with Frankie Muniz, and I was actually catching him, about to pass him, which was going to make my day because he was in a little better equipment. And we go down into turn three, and they call cars spinning on the radio, and it was just too late, and I made the wrong decision. As the car started to roll down, I went high, and then he stopped, and I hit him. So ending my career on that kind of note was not great. So I hope for sure I've got to go run another race or two so I can end it on a better note than that. But besides that, just getting to run those races, and then we went to Nashville for the banquet, and it was fancy deal, and got to go up on stage and meeting Jesse Love and Frankie Muniz and just all the guys. If I go back to a race and go down in the pits, they'll all come up and shake my hand and stuff. Through that process, I met Raja Caruth, and he is just the most down to earth, coolest guy there is. Always makes a point to speak. Whether I see him or he sees me, he'll come over and speak. He saw my wife randomly, wife and daughter at Target in Kansas, and went over and spoke to him as we had already met. So that was a cool deal just to meet all those people and create lifelong friendships, and just makes it all more interesting to watch and be a part of it when you know people that are in the deal.
One guy I think so much in that series, and I'd be curious to hear if you had any cool stories or forged a friendship of sorts with Brad Smith, the journeyman driver who's been running so much in ARCA and has run the last 25 plus years and being similar in age. Was he somebody maybe that you had sought out advice from, or maybe there was a natural connection? They're just curious if there was anything there with Brad.
Not a lot. I mean, I met him because we were all at the same races. I appreciate what he does. I mean, he works hard and scrapes up the dollars to try to make these races, and he would come over and look at my equipment because we had pretty good stuff. He's like, "Man, that sure is nice." Um, but yeah, I would, we would talk, and I don't think we ever had any incidents on the track. So hopefully, I left him with a good impression. I do have a couple other stories on that front with some other drivers, but not so much the drivers, but some owners.
The floor is yours if you care to share.
Sure, I can share one, which I for the most part I think I did a good job of doing my thing and knowing my place and staying out of the way of the faster guys. But we were, which you can look it up in the race, but we were running Berlin, and I was a couple of laps down, and I think it was 3 or 4 to go, and William Sawalich was chasing Jesse Love down, and I didn't get the message to get down in time, and so on the back straightaway when I got down, William got in there and kind of moved Jesse up out of the way and ended up winning the race. And after the race, before I could get out of the car, Billy stuck his head in my window and let me know how much he appreciated that. Um, I finally my crew got him out of the car, and I said, "Hey man, if you'll wait there 4 or 5 minutes and let me get out of this car, I'm a pretty big guy, so it takes me a minute to get out." I said, "We can talk about this face to face." But by then he had already run off. But he ended up getting called to the hauler, and him and Andy Hillenberg, who was spotting for me. So if you want to blame somebody, blame him. That's exactly what Andy told him. So that's kind of the deal that I had with that. But after the race and the next week or so, I got Jesse's number and text him and talk to him, and we were all fine. He's like, "Man, my car was going away anyway, so it really wasn't you." So I guess that's my story.
There you go. There you go. I guess my curious question here, because you've gotten to run the ARCA schedule, and of course that next step up, you see drivers run truck races or the Xfinity Series. Is there any aspirations to take the racing to the next level and race in any of those national touring series at any point?
Yeah, again, if I could find the funding, I'd love to run a truck race or Xfinity race at you know somewhere that I don't necessarily have to be super competitive, but somewhere I could just go do my thing and not be a problem for anybody. Because obviously, I'm probably not going to be able to raise the money to be in a top 10 car, but I'd like to go run halfway decent and show that I can drive a car.
think it'd be awesome to see it. Maybe you and David will get the chance to be on the track at some point together.
Right? That would be cool.
Yes.
Very cool. All right. John, we'll have you stick around and get your thoughts on some of the headlines going on in the sport and get to our news and notes. And then we'll have our mailbag to follow after that. Dom, let's go ahead and get started with the news and notes. Carson Hocevar made some headway in a multitude of ways this past weekend. It's pretty eventful for Carson.
Pretty eventful. He was fined, and not by NASCAR, but his actual team himself. Spire Motorsports handing him down a $50,000 fine for remarks he made on a live stream about Mexico a few days back on iRacing. Spire, from reporting at the racingexperts.com, fined Hocevar after a thorough internal investigation, or internal review rather, of remarks he made Saturday about NASCAR's weekend in Mexico City. He was fined 50 grand over the remarks, and he's going to have to undergo some sensitivity training per what he had said. And he did call, he said, and I quote, if it wasn't such a shithole, if the track limits were a little better enforced, it was going to be a better race. He didn't feel so locked down. It'd be a great experience. So he made those comments, I believe, on a Twitch stream answering a fan's question. Nonetheless, his team taking action and handing him down a monetary fine.
Dom, when I look at that, Carson probably saying some things he regrets, and I read, especially with the fine, like he's on a rookie contract, like 50,000 is a lot of money to him at this point in his career. Um, you know, I would guess because this is an in-house penalty, there will probably be ways for him to earn that back at some point, especially if he continues to run the way he does. I don't think that, he's necessarily going to be without that 50 grand by the end of the year if he can, especially if he can get to victory lane or something, that there'll be other ways to make it up. But, I look at this, Dom, like the weekend as a whole, I think you can chalk up as a growing experience for Carson, with the stuff with Ricky, and I think Ricky wants to annihilate him now, based on what we've seen the last couple of weeks. But then this here, I mean, for as much as we talk about Carson and every bit of attention that's been pointed his way, he's still only in his second year. I mean, everything that's gone on, whether it's the on track stuff or the off track stuff, like I think it's par for the course. Like he's a young guy, he's still learning. Like I don't, I'm not saying like that it's excusable everything that he's done, but I think he'll grow from all of that. I think Carson's going to be a star in this sport and be a guy that at the end of the day might take some time. I think he's going to be well liked for the most part.
I do too, and I think, like you said, it's a learning experience. He even, and I want to balance that too with what he said on social media. I'll read his statement in part where he said, maybe a kid, quote, maybe a kid that had never been out of the country till Thursday should ever give an opinion about what any place is like other than Portage, Michigan. He goes on to talk about answering the questions in the stream and ends the statement saying, count it as another lesson for me in a season I've learned so much. You don't believe everything you hear about without seeing it yourself. If anyone should give anyone or any place a benefit of the doubt, it's me. I'm sorry, Mexico City. Consider me an ally going forward, an example of getting off Twitch and seeing things with my own two eyes.
John, what's your thoughts on what's going on with Carson Hocevar here?
Yeah, as far as what happened in Mexico, I don't know. I think it's so easy. I stream on Twitch too, and it's so easy to get sucked into what some comments might be going on in your chat. But I think it also shows that how maybe sheltered some of these young stars are growing up. They don't experience a lot of things, and then just going by what they've heard on social media or from whoever. I think it was a bad deal. And when he initially apologized, I'm like, okay, blah blah blah. Somebody typed that up and he read it. He didn't really mean that. But then some of the comments about him coming from a small town and never being out of the country, and I think Spire did. Kudos to them for them finding him themselves. And then I read that the money is going to go to, I think, 3 charities in Mexico, which is great. If they're finding him 50K though, I'm wondering what they're paying him though.
Yeah. But you hear a lot of times about rookie contracts being, and I'm ballparking with $600,000 in the Cup Series plus incentives for other top 5, top 10 finishes. Spire's invested a lot of money into the sport, and they have a lot of partners. So would think there's probably some money to be tossed around as a driver, and I would figure too, Tyler, that's probably why the team has gotten ahead on this too, and issuing the statement, issuing the fine the way they have, and trying to get ahead of the story, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe even ahead of NASCAR. NASCAR may have issued a
All
punishment.
right.
Maybe they're getting out front in that way. But yeah, it's very proactive on their part. I was a little surprised by it, but we'll see where things go from there. John, real quick, while we're on Carson Host, let me just get your thoughts on what he's done. He's had a breakout season this year and run so well. What do you think of what he's been able to do there for that Spire Motorsports team?
Yeah, I mean, compared to the other drivers that have been in their cars, even the current drivers besides himself, he's outperformed them all. It seems like he's got to just throttle back a little bit. You like they say, you'd rather slow somebody down than try to get them to speed up, but he's just got to stop making these mistakes, and kind of gain the respect of the other drivers. Otherwise, they're just when they get around him, they're just going to wreck him or move him out of the way and ruin his day. Kind of like what happened to him in the truck championship race in Phoenix. They just ended his day after he did what he did there. So hopefully he learns from all this stuff and will file it away and make him a better driver and better person. As far as Spire stepping up and finding him, like you said, they're probably trying to get out in front of it. Probably because they do see his potential, and doesn't they want to maybe shake him and say, "Hey, man, you got potential to be able to be a big star in this sport. Let's wake up and get going there."
You're right. Definitely a lesson learned. Maybe hindsight will be 2020 as more time passes on this. Certainly something he will appreciate even more. So kind of like a parent that gives you tough love. You might be pissed off in the moment. You might be even saying things in your head. I'm not saying Hocevar's done that, but you're gonna look back on that. I think if you're Carson Hocevar, like, okay, there was a hard knock lesson here, and we were able to learn it, and we were able to grow together.
Right, for sure.
Also,
Yeah.
looking at Tyler, as far as other news and notes this week, some more battles, not on the racetrack, but in the courtroom this week with the 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports appeal. And all of the information coming out of the courtroom appears that the two teams would have lost their charters this weekend, but both teams at the time of this taping are going to be able to get ahead of their Thursday deadline of being able to file an appeal. And Jeffrey Kessler had made a statement to NBC Sports, who's representing the two teams with 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, that unfortunately, quote, unfortunately, I don't think these three judges, if you read their opinion, actually dealt with the hard issues, and that's what the circuit will need to do. So as this counterclaim goes and continues to work through the courts, we know the courts is a slow moving process, but the teams are still trying to fight for their charter status throughout the year. But Denny Hamlin did acknowledge, too, that this was a fight that they knew they could potentially lose mid-season going into the 2025 season when he talked to the media at Michigan last week, Tyler.
Yeah, this is not ending anytime soon. I said last week, and I'll continue to reiterate that I don't think either side wants this legal battle. Probably NASCAR more so than 2311 Front Row. But when you talk about all the documents and the things that can be released, and then the money that's spent in all this, I mean, one side's going to get what they want, and the other side's going to appeal, and it's going to go back and forth and back and forth. I don't know if it's a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now. We're going to get a settlement of some sorts, and it's all, going to come together. 2311 in Front Row, they're going to get some that they want. NASCAR is going to get some what they want. Nobody's going to be completely happy. And Dom, I think that's probably a good thing. A good sign in these negotiations typically is when everybody doesn't get what they want. So, you know, from an outside perspective, I don't have a dog in this fight between the teams or NASCAR. And I understand the frustrations that both teams are having, but I'm still sitting here very confident that we're going to have this all work out one way or the other. What say you?
Yeah, the court process, as we know, whether it comes to lawsuits, to criminal action, sometimes it's a very slow moving process. And we're seeing that play out right now. And we know that this is not even apparently going to go to trial till December, which would be a few weeks after the NASCAR season. And so it doesn't mess with what's going on in the season, but it wouldn't shock me with court system and how this all works out if this could be postponed or delayed. We've seen delayings happen, I believe, in this case and as with other cases in the past too. So it's a long process. If this is a 400-mile NASCAR race, we're probably somewhere at the end of stage one, at the beginning of stage two. We still have a long way to go for this thing to play out.
John, what's your thoughts on what's transpiring here?
I mean, I can see both sides. I mean, it is NASCAR's playground. Um, I mean, they should make the bulk of the money, in my opinion. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight either, but with them, making so much money, maybe they can be a little more fair and share a little more of the wealth with the teams, especially teams that have charters. Um, I don't know. Like you said, I think there's going to be some sort of compromise, and the other charter teams are probably in the corner rooting for 2311 and front row to win, because whatever concessions are given, I got to think the rest of the charters are going to get the same concessions if it's a bump in money or something like that. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's David and Goliath thing. We'll see how it ends up, but I don't even think we're at stage two yet. I think we're still in the middle of stage one.
To kind of give a gambler's perspective here, Tyler, if this is like you're getting free play from a casino, the teams are getting the free play here. There's nothing that's gonna like if you're not 2311 Racing, if you're not Furniture Row, or I'm sorry, Front Row Motorsports, you're any of the other charter teams, it's like you have the house money, you have the free play a little bit, and you're able to kind of just watch what happens. If it doesn't go their way, nothing against the other charter teams, but there's the potential to win there. I would think that might be the best layman's terms to be able to break it down that, hey, it's free play for these other teams.
Oh, they won't say it out loud, and they've been very quiet about it. But the other teams are rooting for 2311 in front row here. They are.
Sure.
They're, it's the comparison I would make, Dom, is you're in an office setting and you got the one guy in the office, I guess in this case, two guys, that call out the boss and stand up for everybody and stick their neck out there and threaten themselves to get fired. And everybody else is uh, saying, hey, we support you, but they're not saying a damn thing. They're keeping quiet and they know they got their safety in their jobs, but they're rooting for you. They hope that they can pull through and everybody wins. But if it doesn't work out, then they're acting like they don't know you. See ya. I'm still here. Like that's what's going on with. They're all rooting for the 2311 front row here.
Yeah, for sure.
I like your analogy better there, Tyler. That's an even better way to describe it.
Yeah, yeah. It's something. What do the odds look like this weekend?
This week, without any racetrack on activity at Pocono Raceway just yet this week in the opening odds, you're going to have all three National Touring Series at Pocono Raceway this weekend with the Truck Xfinity and Cup Series. But when you look to the NASCAR Cup Series, are we shocked? Are we surprised? Even though he had a week off, your odds-on favorite for the Pocono race this weekend is going to be Denny Hamlin at plus 400. Second place, tied with second, would be Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson, both at plus 600. William Byron at plus 700. Christopher Bell at plus 850. Tyler Reddick at plus 1,000. Chase Elliott at plus 1,400. Chris Buescher also at plus 1,400. Daniel Suarez at plus 1,600. And then Brad Keselowski and Ty Gibbs at plus 1,800. You go down the list more, you start getting to some of your more long shots. Your longest shot this weekend, a return to the Cup Series, is the only open entry with New York Racing Brennan Poole sitting at plus 250,000 or 2,500 to 1.
Okay. So who's your pick here, Dom? And you didn't make me guess the odds this week.
Well, yeah, I figure we'll give you the week off on that one. But
Okay.
you're usually pretty spot on getting those. I don't know. Is it wrong to pick the guy that's the odds-on favorite? Because he is the odds-on favorite for a reason, and he's shown that he can get it done in this vehicle twice, I'll add. Only once has it counted for victory because he was the first driver in 58, 57 years to be disqualified, and he lets everybody know that. But I think Denny Hamlin gets it done and win number 58 this week.
Denny's a great pick. I'd be curious, Denny a week out of the race car, like, does he get back in like nothing ever happened? Or is he going to be fine I would. I'm going to go with a guy that's still looking for his second win of the season. He's leading the points. I can't believe he hasn't had that second win yet. Give me William Byron. I like William Byron to get it done at Pocono. I think that this is a good opportunity for him. He's good at these bigger tracks. That 24 cars got speed. They just haven't maybe got the wins they're looking for. I'll go William Byron. John, how about you? Who do you got this week?
I mean, I don't want to ride the same trains you're riding, so I'm going to go with Blaney. I
Okay. Defending winner.
like Blaney. He runs good there.
Yeah, it's a solid pick right there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of those three, you can make a case for any of those three to go out and lead the most laps.
Yeah. Yeah, you certainly can. All right, before we go, time for our mailbag segment. You can submit questions to us each and every week. Star Podcast on X and Facebook, also by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And our first question this week for John, it comes from Gravy. Gravy wants to know, it's a funny name, Gravy. Uh, John, where have you not raced that you would like to race next?
Oh, good question. And this would still be a possibility because it's on the schedule. I'd like to run Dover. I think that would be crazy. Get a lot of throttle time at that place, so I think that would be fun. So, um, besides the obvious answer, which I didn't give this because it's not on the ARCA schedule and they've only been there once, I would mortgage my house to race at Texas Motor Speedway. So,
Ooh.
if anybody's out there,
I
I
like
would
that.
love to jump in a truck or Xfinity or maybe ARCA could add that to the schedule in the next couple of years, and I would love to run at that track. I know I could find sponsorship for Texas Motor Speedway. That would be cool.
That'd be great. That'd be
Thanks for the
awesome.
question, Gravy.
Gravy.
Well,
Gravy.
I'll tell you what, John, he has something over us. Tyler here has something over us that we don't have. He's actually driven some laps at Texas Motor Speedway at that David Starr Team
I've
Exit.
I've I've raced at Texas Motor Speedway. I was passing cars at Texas Motor Speedway. My dad did it a couple weeks ago too. Uh,
Nice. I did race there in '04
Oh, okay.
on or '05, one of those years. It's so far ago on the road course on the inside. And I actually won. And you asked for some pictures earlier. I'll send you that picture of actually in Victory Lane with my crew. And I won it on the road course there. And that was pretty cool. I hadn't been on the big track, though. Got to get up there. Maybe David will let me come make some laps.
yeah, I'm sure he will. The road course at Texas, that's something I haven't heard much about. I don't think they still even have the layout for it. John, what can you tell us about the road course there back in?
Yeah, if you ever go camping there or get in the pits and go through the campground, it's still laid out there and it's in good shape. I think they use it for different schools and stuff. But when they use the big track, they open it up in two different spots on the back straightaway. So they'll on the faster cars, they'll actually get on the big track on that deal. But I think IMSA has had some races there, and it's actually a track option on iRacing. So if you're on iRacing, you could give that a try.
Okay, might have
But
to.
there's some even on just the infield portion, there's some long straightaways and some fast S's, and that was a fun race to run.
Dom, you and I are not racing any NASCAR stock car races anytime soon, but um, let's let's kind of flip the script to our equation here. What is a track that neither one of us have gone to that we would like to go to? Then I'll start with you.
You've really sold Nashville and Coda for me. That's towards the top of my list, but the number one I still need to get to, and I'm hoping to cross it off in October, is Martinsville. The only track on the original schedule from 49 that we still race at in the Cup Series that has been a part of the schedule every year. The history there, I think it would be really neat to be able to be there, especially for the playoff race to go cover that. It'd be a lot of fun. And of course, you've been to Nashville, you've been to Coda, you've been to some really cool places. I know you haven't been to Bristol yet, but where would Bristol rank for you, Tyler? And is that your number one? If not, what is?
Ooh, the number one for me from a history standpoint is Indy, and I mean, no offense, I love NASCAR more than any other motorsport by far, but I think the Indy 500 itself is next on my list. I'd rather go to the Indy 500 than the Brickyard. No, but I would love to go to the Brickyard too. Uh, but Indy,
Same.
probably be number one for me, and then Bristol probably be a close second. Those would be next on my list of tracks I haven't been to yet, but I'll make happen at some point in time, I'm sure, in the very near future. But that's a good question there from Gravy. Thanks for sending that in. Next question from Matt. Matt wants to know. Um, he says, "How good will my shirts look when Fort Worth screen printing gets done with them?" I don't know the context of that, but John, maybe you know something I don't here.
I do know that. That's who I work for is a Fort Worth screen printing. I have a good idea which Matt that might be.
Is Matt Kemp?
Um,
Friend of the
Matt
show?
Matt H possibly. But yeah, we do a lot of t-shirts for us, some of the different NASCAR teams and some fulfillment stuff for like Jesse Love and Anthony Alfredo and places like that, people like that. So yeah, very good question, Matt. Of course, your t-shirts would be A plus.
And then Matt had a follow up. He said, "What's the next goal for Jon Garrett, the race car driver?"
Um, just to be able to run another ARCA race and you know go out on good terms with a good feeling about it.
I like that. Um, Dom, are you getting any shirts from Fort Worth Screen Printing?
I need to talk with John off air about that. Actually, we're needing to get some new stuff with the racing experts printed. So now
Yeah,
we have a connection with John. We need to get that all figured out and do a good deal there. So
yeah,
yes.
for sure.
So yeah, I think you know a thing or three about that, John. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it
yeah,
was Matt Kemp. Yes, I know you guys were teammates too, briefly there in 23, and he's a friend of the show. So
yeah. We ran some races together. I actually thought it was a different Matt. We know a lot of Matts in the industry, but that I do t-shirts for. But yeah, he was definitely a cool teammate. I think he was at Berlin for that incident we discussed. So he may be able to give some insight to that for you.
yeah, Matt and I go way back. So kind of like that sim racing connection. He and I used to do some NR 2003 races and leagues. I don't know if you ever did that sim stuff before iRacing really became the popular one, but we would run towards the back in these leagues. But I think you tend to run around the people that your skill sets with, at least you think it is, and kind of form some friendships around that. And he and I stayed in touch. So to see him stick with it the way he did and run at Flat Rock and be able to make it and how he's doing right now in the ARCA series, he's just getting started, in my opinion. I think he has a very bright future in the sport.
Yeah, when he gets the opportunity to run full races with funding, he does a great job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was top 10 this past weekend, too. He got his first National
Yeah,
Series top 10.
Very
yeah.
cool. John, what's the next few days or next few weeks look like for you, man?
Oh, just like most everybody else, work, work, work. Got a lot going on at work right now. We're doing some expansion, um, trying to get those T-shirts out for those race teams. And then, the never-ending search to try to find funding to go racing. I mean, I haven't given up on this year yet, so we're going to keep trying to do that. And then I'm on Twitch 2 or 3 times a week running iRacing. If you want to look me up there, it's John T. Garrett. John with no H, of course. And I'll try not to pull a Carson Hocevar and say the wrong thing. There may be some foul language, but I don't think I'll go down the road he went down
We
Well,
can all
shit.
learn some lessons from that stream, right?
for sure.
Well, shit. That's good to hear. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever heard Dom cuss on this show.
Well, when I read that statement, yeah, I guess I did, right? So,
Well, like my wife says, if you're reading it, it's okay. That's what she tells.
so
She doesn't
I guess
really
technically I
cuss.
still haven't cussed on the show. Then I don't know.
Yeah,
If I
she
will.
doesn't really
I think you
cuss
need.
either.
Come on, Dom. You need to curse right now. And tell us what you really think about something.
We'll save that for another show.
Boo!
Well, John,
Boo!
he's right here, man. I don't want to say. Oh, I'll tell Tyler off there. We deal with these privately, right? We do it privately, Tyler. I'm not going to cuss you out here on the show. That's not cool.
Oh, you're being an asshole right now.
Who would have to pay the fine here? The 50K,
Yeah, yeah.
and who would get the money?
Hmm. I like John's thinking on this. He's like, you know what you're like, John? You're like Brad Keselowski or Kevin Harvick when he just gave that gentle nudge to Brad
Oh,
Keselowski at Texas. You're just nudging it just a little bit. I like it. I like it.
just pushed him in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Dom, what's going on with you this week, man?
Yeah, I'll be having a nice little home weekend with the family, and yeah, it's gonna be good to spend it here at Grants. Probably enjoy some sort of cookout this weekend. And hey, by the way, folks, I learned the difference because of this man right here, Tyler Jones, the difference between a cookout and a get together and all the terminology of that. So it'll be a
A
nice
barbecue. Yes.
barbecue. There we go. Barbecue and cookout. There is a difference. I didn't know that.
Yes. You can't tell people you're having a barbecue and serve hamburgers and hot dogs.
Not in Texas.
Not in, yes, really anywhere, but especially not in Texas. Yeah.
There you go.
Um,
There's key terms there. How about you, Tyler? Well, before you tell us, I think it's worth noting you had quite the honor this past week, and I know you're not going to toot your own home, so I will. Tell us a little bit about the honoring your hometown there in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. They're very proud of you up there for very good reason.
yes, on Monday night, I was recognized in my hometown of Broken Arrow with a proclamation in my I was given the distinction as a hometown hero for my work in this industry and sports broadcasting and for what I've done to uh, be a voice and a difference maker and representing the city, where I've come from. I'm proud to be from Broken Arrow, that city's done so much for me and meant so much to my family. My mom works for the city, and so it was very humbling. It was very great to have that experience and have a good little Father's Day weekend. Good cap off to Father's Day weekend to make my dad proud and to have him there along with my mom. So that was very cool. But this weekend, just kind of laying low, just a little weekend off here in Dallas. Hopefully, watch the Oklahoma City Thunder take home an NBA championship on either Thursday or Sunday night. I like our odds. So, it's one of those deals, Dob. I know you always give me a hard time when I'm on the road when I'm not on the road for the Summer of Jones, but this is unique circumstances. I don't want to be anywhere else but right in front of my TV with my team having a chance to win a championship. I don't want to be in the car. I don't want to be in an airplane. I just want, and I don't want any distractions here. I think that is a valuable excuse for me not being on the road this weekend, Dom.
I would think the only thing that might surpass that is watching that maybe with friends or family or being at a tailgate with the game or something. Would that kind of elevate that experience?
It could, but also like I know that almost every time in those scenarios you get stuck with somebody that's rooting against your team. I don't want to deal with that. I want to be locked in. I don't want any distractions. I don't want to get in any fights with people. I just want to enjoy the game this weekend. So Thunder up. Let's bring home that NBA title. That's what I'll be doing this weekend. John, thanks for the time, man. Plug away. Where can people find you and follow you and all the stuff you're doing, man?
Yeah, I sure appreciate y'all having me on here. You can find me on Twitch, John T. Garrett. I'm on Facebook, uh, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it this week, Instagram. I've even got a wiki page. It's crazy. So if you Google John T. Garrett ARCA, I pop up all over the place, good and bad. But yeah, it's great being on here this week.
Yes. Thanks for being here with us, John. Appreciate it. Yes. We will put the checkered flag out in this edition of Let's Go Racing. Subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit us up on social media at Star Podcast on X and Facebook, by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Check out the Studio Soapbox Network. This show, Jones Sport, Coach Bono's podcast on all podcast platforms. For Dominic Aragon and Jon Garrett, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next time.